My friend and I were at our local Incredible Pizza. We were gaming, playing the ticket claw machines when my friend said, "Let's go to the fast go-karts." I, being the average hyperactive friend everyone has, of course, agreed that we should go. When we got in line, we lied about our age to get in the fast race. We were 12 at the time, and you needed to be 14 and 4 inches to get on. We got into line, and after about 15 minutes, a tall, smelling white guy with bleached, braided hair, brown roots, and yellow crooked teeth got behind us and started making small talk. He was wearing a weird black hoodie. He was talking like he was drunk, and he had to lean on the rails to stay balanced. We were talking with him, and then he told us to tell him our age. We said we were 12. The guy then decided that, since he's older, he gets to get in front of us. This let me know right away that he was on something. He pulled out a crushed piece of paper and started giggling. He started telling us to sniff it. My friend said, "No thanks. Please get it out of my face." The guy then started asking me without talking what my friend's problem was. When he told me to sniff it, I didn't argue. When I sniffed it, it smelled like a cigarette. But not your average cigarette. It burned your nostrils really bad. My friend then told me he wanted to go to laser tag and that this line wasn't worth it. I knew that meant he was uncomfortable and wanted to go, so we left and ran out of the place. We met my aunt who had taken us to Incredible Pizza. We told her what happened and she then took us to security. Soon after we went to security, I told them his description. He told me to go with him to identify the guy. We found the weird guy in a go-kart ready to ride when the officer put him in cuffs. We went back to playing, but my friend and I were still traumatized. Security soon came back over and said the guy had pot and was high on it. He told us the guy couldn't be arrested unless the manager wanted him to get arrested. We left soon after with our prizes. We still haven't heard if he was arrested to this day. We now are never going to think of Incredible Pizza as the fun, family-friendly place we once thought it was.
Country lanes in the UK are pretty narrow and have many blind bends. I was driving down a lane, and there was a cyclist in front of me, in the middle of the road, not wearing a helmet, and heading toward a completely blind bend. Suddenly, I realized that if a car swung around that bend, it would smash into the cyclist and pin him to my car. It was like a Final Destination vision. I couldn't hear or see another car, but I vividly saw this accident in my mind. I immediately slammed on my brakes, honked my horn, and pulled over. The poor cyclist guy panicked and stumbled to the hedges. Mere seconds later, some idiotic teenager came speeding out of the blind corner and missed us by inches. If we were still on the road, this guy would have plowed straight through the cyclist and into my car. I completely freaked out, and the cyclist came over to calm me down. I don't remember much, but I know I was saying, "You were dead," over and over again. I'm not a religious person at all, but that's the closest I've come to believing in some divine intervention. This is a ghost story from my family, but whatever. My dad isn't a strong believer in anything. He prays every morning for a few seconds before going to work, but that's about it. However, this is the only story he's ever told my brother that made him question his beliefs. It was a hot afternoon in Puebla, Mexico. My dad, along with his wife's mother, our grandma, had just arrived home. He had just returned from a work trip and was extremely tired in the Mexican heat. He didn't have the keys to the house gate. The gate was a green metal gate, like a giant sliding door that you couldn't see through. Climbing it was almost impossible. It went up high to 15 or 20 feet, and the 3 brick walls surrounding our property were the same height. We had a big property, but didn't live in a rural area, per se. Rather, it was a small dusty town with other big houses around. Next to the gate was a metal door, the same rusty green color. My dad went up to the door and began pounding on it. He knew that by this hour, my sister, who was in high school at the time, should have been home. Our house was large, with 3 floors, with thick brick walls, pushed all the way to the opposite side of the gate. So, my dad knocks and then yells,
"Come open the gate."
Then he hears from across our property, in the house, my sister yelling back,
"Wait, I'm coming."
So he waits and waits, and eventually, after a few minutes, he knocks again, now louder, and again he yells, now louder.
"Open the damn gate."
Again from inside the house, he hears the echoing yell of my sister saying,
"Wait, I'm coming."
And while waiting this time, my grandma looked over at him and said,
"What could be taking her so long?"
After waiting again, even longer this time, he decided to call my mom. She picked up, and he asked if she knew what was going on with my sister. My mom responded confused and in a bit of shock, then asked why. My dad responds by telling her the story, but she cuts him off midway and says,
"She's not home. She's with me right now."
As it turns out, my mom got off work early and picked up my sister from school. They went clothes shopping in a nearby outdoor mall. As he continued telling her the story, he began running around the property, checking all the walls for any sign of forced entry, a ladder, hook, rope, or anything to see if anyone had broken in. My mom then began driving home with my sister. At the front of the house, they all gathered. My mom opened the gate to get both cars in, and while doing so, my dad ran inside and went for his hidden gun. Then he tore the house in half. Nothing was stolen, no sign of breaking and entering, and no one was found. My dad was confused and believed someone was either on the property or had left without anything. But that's when my grandma told him something that would make him question the supernatural. She said, if it was a person, how did they sound just like your daughter? They both were there. They both heard the voice. And they both to this day swear up and down that it was my sister's voice, as clear as day. My dad always left the door open for something on the other side after that day. That house, my whole family swears, was haunted. It wasn't a creepy cabin in the woods or a 500-year-old abandoned house where a family was killed. It was just a piece of land that my mom and dad bought and built their house inside of, and it was haunted.